Today, let's start with Chad, who is battling a cholera outbreak that has killed 63 people. What can you tell us here?
Yeah, the pandemic in Chad, this cholera outbreak is unfortunate, but this is largely because of the people that are fleeing the war in Sudan. The war that's been going on for almost going to 3 years now has been ravaging Sudan terribly, and so people have fled in numbers. And so most of them actually find themselves in the eastern part of Chad. And so they have these refugee camps where they keep them, and the sanitation is not as desirable. Therefore, there's been a cholera outbreak there, and so about 63 people have died so far.
How has the government of Chad responded in terms of emergency assistance?
Well, basically, the government of Chad is trying to put in measures to help with the cholera outbreak. And also, they've called upon the international community, such as the United Nations Human Rights for Refugee, to assist and help with the situation. But it doesn't seem like they really do have resources to put up facilities that can ensure hygiene and good sanitary, facilities in these camps. And I think that also the government is a bit overwhelmed because of the influx of these refugees coming into the country. Therefore, they're doing the best they can, but I don't think it's as good enough, unfortunately, because the numbers of the people reported with cholera is almost 1,000 now, and only 63 people have died so far.
Do we expect the numbers to rise, especially if you say the response from the government has not been adequate?
Definitely, I think that the government is playing catch up, and so they're doing everything they can, but I think they have limited resources. And so we expect a situation to become very dire if no further assistance is given to the government, especially from external players in terms of the international community.
Okay, let's move to Gabon now, where the president there has raised concerns over the rejection of candidates, this ahead of their elections in September in the country. President Brice Oligui Nguema says the disqualification of these candidates is an unacceptable practice.
I find it very hard to believe what the president is saying. I think that he is, remember, this is the guy that came through a military coup and, of course, then went to an election. And now he is the president of Gabon after actually outstaying a dynasty, a family dynasty that has ruled Gabon for a long time. So I think that he's desperate to get accolades and he's desperate to position himself in a positive light. I don't know that this condemnation has anything to go by. I don't think it's meaningful. I don't think that what he's saying now has teeth to bite. If anything, he should not express displeasure, but he should actually demand that these that are disqualified be reinstated and participate in the legislative elections.
Sorry about that, Aaron. Our systems just froze there a little bit. So, what reasons were given for the disqualification of these candidates, and what avenues can they now use? There's not much time. 27 September is going to be here now.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough time to address these specific unfortunate situation. This is why I think that I think this might be some sort of tactic or politics at play, especially by the regime, to just completely disqualify these people at the legislative level of participating in an election. Because, like I said, if the president means well and he wants these people to participate in the elections, he didn't have to condemn the disqualification of them from being on the ballot. He had to just reinstate the process. He had to he should have used his powers to give a directive that would override his decision. But it doesn't seem like he's going in that direction. I think that he's just happy to make a statement and let the status quo be so that it advantages him rather than the people that want to run, whom I believe are on the opposition side.
How do Gabonese voters feel about the president this time around? Does he still enjoy support?
Yes, he's quite popular. I think that the people of Gabon almost feel indebted to him for, like I said, for having taken out a family dynasty that ruled Gabon for over 40 years. So he came through this coup, he overthrew that family, and then he comes in and actually did have an election which he won overwhelmingly. I think that people think that he's done a good thing for the country, and I think that he wants to project that image going forward. But I'm still very suspicious to see how far he goes with doing good for the people of Gabon.
From a regional standpoint, can Gabon achieve electoral equity?
It's too early to tell. I mean, of course, Gabon has been in a very bad shape in terms of having been ruled for over 40 years, or 40 years, by the same family that conducted sham elections. So, if there's anything to go by, this would be the first time that Gabon conducts free and fair and credible elections on the legislative council level, but we're yet to see that. I think that it is a very young democracy in Gabon right now, and I think that we cannot really tell until we see how far they go with implementing some of the reforms that they have been doing.
All right, let's move to Equatorial Guinea now, where a court has convicted the country's president for a state plane that was sold. So it was the son of President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Masongo who illegally sold the plane belonging to the national airline. Was he working alone?
It seems like he wasn't working alone. There are others that are implicated in this process.
Mhm.
You have to recall that he was in charge of this portfolio when he was in government. Therefore, there are a lot of people that were under him. But so far, we know that it is only him that has been convicted by the courts of law. But what is interesting to see here is that in 2023, the same son to the president was actually put on house arrest. And this was instigated by his half brother, who is also in government, who's also serving his father as a minister. So it seems to me like this is more of a family issue and a family problem rather than really politics at play.
So, what kind of punishment with Ruslan Obiang Su, the son, now face?
Well, they have the court have slapped him with 6 years of imprisonment, or he has to pay about 225,000 US dollars as a fine, and also with that, if he pays that, then he also has to be charged what they're considering as the kind of damage that he did to the country. So there'll be more of damage and also that amount that the country is expected to recover from this sale of the plane.
Yeah, and talking of recovery, then will the 50-year-old's assets overseas and abroad be seized as well, over and above the punishment?
Oh, well, this is something that I was trying to allude to. So the seized assets abroad are the ones that are under the other son's name. And so the one that implicated this one who sold the plane. So there are two sons, half brothers, who are the sons of the current president. And the president has been at the helm of this country. He's 83 years old. He's been at the helm of this country for 46 years now. And it seems to me that the sons or people within the family are trying to position themselves to see what happens after the old man is not around. So the one who was indicted and convicted in Paris for embezzlement is a different son who actually implicated this other son who is now involved in the plane scandal. So it seems like it's a corruption in the family that is deeply rooted.
Will it have, this entire debacle, much of a negative impact on the president's reputation and legacy, since it seems to be, a battle between his sons, and it's not really him who is committing these crimes?
Well, he has very little credibility himself. I think that most people do see the regime as corrupt. They see it as a family affair, as a family dynasty. They see the regime as enriching itself rather than attending to the needs of the people. So I don't think that there is much of a legacy to talk about even after the president has left the presidency.
Okay, we move to the Central African Republic now. They have become the 46th AU member state to commit to advancing women's rights. In what ways will they be advancing women's rights?
So as of July 28th of this year, the Central African Republic has made a very momentous step. They have signed on to what they call the Maputo Protocols. They have ratified the Maputo Protocols. The Maputo Protocols are basically a treaty that advocates for the protection and the championing of women and girls' rights across the African continent. So they have made that commitment. And with that, the Maputo Protocol provides a legal framework that is followed in most of these countries, at least these 46 countries, on how to deal with issues to do with gender, how to deal with issues involving women and girls, such as early child marriages, such as genital mutilation for women and other things. So this is a very big step for the Central African Republic because of its culture, because of its history, because of its record in terms of human rights, specifically women's rights. Therefore, for them to ratify this protocol, it means that they have committed to follow through with a treaty that is highly regarded and considered by the African Union.
Okay, it's one thing to want to be part of the Maputo Protocol, but what do you think it will take then for the country to continue to uphold the rights of women and girls?
Well, we take a lot of things because this is an issue that is not only political, it's a social, it's an economic, it's a cultural issue. All these things are things that you have to look at when you're looking at women issues in terms of the social lenses, the economic, and the political landscape as well. But like I said, Central African Republic, because of its background, because of its history, it seems like they have struggles in terms of equality before the law, and also issues to do with women having the same opportunities as men. Therefore, it is a momentous step that they've taken to commit to this, but the implementation only leaves for us to see what happens.
Okay, let's talk about the Institute of Security Studies. They're saying the wave of protests in Angola reflect historic lows that could continue into the 2027 election year. Do you agree?
Yes, there's a lot of dissatisfaction in Angola, and it doesn't seem like these protests are dying down. It seems like this keeps going on, and for reasons that are justifiable. For example, you have about 54% of unemployment among young people in Angola. You have a country that is rich in oil production, but yet you see fuel prices going up, commodity prices going up. You have a country that has been very peaceful since its independence, but yet the development of the country itself leaves much to be desired. Therefore, I think that the protests, which began with the student union organizing protests, peaceful protests, yet the police have tried to disrupt this, went from students to taxi drivers, now to the ordinary people and the peasant people on the streets. You find that this is going to fuel up as we go into the elections because the government is highly unpopular now. The MPLA, the party that is in power, is it's facing a lot of intense pressure. There is an issue of succession after the current president finishes his second term in 2027. Therefore, they have so much going on against them, and I think that it will only get worse.
Finally, the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, has summoned senior military officials following setbacks in their battle with the M23 rebels. And this has to do with their meetings in Qatar for peace deals. What can you tell us?
So, about 41 uh, military generals and colonels have been summoned by Kinshasa so that they can look at what is going on because of late the M23 have gained so much ground, they've conquered territory, and so the army, the Congolese army, has been losing ground. Therefore, these military officials were summoned so that the army can assess where the weaknesses are and they can assess what they can do next in order to combat M23s. Now, the M23 rebels seem to have an upper hand in the eastern DR Congo. They have overcome a lot of uh, territories that were, guarded and protected by the military. So they seem to be very comfortable going back to these talks in Qatar. If you recall, these talks began in March of this year when President Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame went to Doha and met in Qatar. After that, we are told that in July, a delegation from the M23 and from the Congolese government actually met in Qatar as well. But since then, no progress has been made. No one has actually adhered to the agreement. Therefore, the M23 has been advancing and the killings keep
Hmm.
going on. Unfortunately, the violence is going up. And so there was need for the government to reassess where they stand, what their strengths are in terms of the military, so that when they go to these talks, they can
Yeah.
probably be able to come up with a truce that will hold.
All right, we'll see whether that will happen then. But thanks so much for your time, Aaron. We're going to leave it there for today's discussions. Thanking you again for your time and have a great day for you and your little girls. I'm sure you'll have your hands full.
Thank you. Thank you, Asande.
Great. Aaron